What up, everyone? Let's get into this week's waiver wire pickups. You guys hear that? It's the Gus bus backing up. Everybody aboard. Okay, with the Ravens backfield losing Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards is going to be going into a fantasy stud role. Now, the only problem here, they face the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not a great matchup for the other two running backs to be out. So I'm a little hesitant on it, but if you are desperate for running back, he is going to be a decent pickup for you. He's going to get yards, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are very stingy. So it might be rough first week, but the following week, if they're still out, he's going to be a great fantasy play for you. Now, I know everyone is on Taysom Hill, and probably a lot of guys already picked him up. And if you had ESPN, you could play him in the tight end slot, which really worked out well for you because he would have been number one fantasy tight end. But Taysom Hill is not a good quarterback. You could add him if you're desperate. I think 2 quarterback leagues he could be good for you, or ESPN. Definitely play him in your tight end slot. It is cheap, but you're technically within the rules, so you can do that. But he's not a great quarterback. If we look at what just happened, he faced the Atlanta Falcons. They are the number one fantasy defense for quarterbacks, number one. And he does face them again in 2 weeks, so it'd be good to pick him up if nobody else has, or hold on to him for them. But if you watch the actual game, his passes did not look good. I mean, his deepest pass was to Emmanuel Sanders, and it was hilariously underthrown. I mean, it was so bad that Emmanuel Sanders, luckily, is a great ball player, because the first defender that was actually covering him ran past because he's like, oh God, this is so short, that the shorter DB actually had to run and catch up to tackle Sanders because it was beyond him, but too short for this guy because he was like, this is a terribly thrown ball. It was like flag football throw. It was terrible. He's not a good quarterback. So he could be a decent play against the Denver Broncos, but I don't have the best faith in him, and I am not a Taysom Hill believer at all. Okay, if you're desperate for wide receivers, Nelson Aguilera actually he's kind of been boomer bust. Okay, Nelson Aguilera, if you're desperate for wide receivers, has been kind of a boomer bust player for you. He's going to have his next couple of games decent matchups. He is going to the Jets in December, so he could be getting a cold game, could be a snow game. We don't know at that time. I don't think it'll be snowing yet in New York, but it could be. But all those other games are going to be inside or in warm weather. So he could be a good play for the playoffs for you if you are desperate for wide receiver. Now, the streaming defense, last week, we picked the Cleveland Browns, and they went off. I mean, it's such a great play by the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they were just crushing. They got a defensive touchdown, safety, all that. And the Chargers actually ended up doing okay. But like I said, the Chargers last week, I was a little worried that they were going to give up a whole bunch of points to the Jets, and they did. They just got lucky and got the touchdown. Otherwise, they would have only put up about 3 fantasy points, depending on your league format, about 3 fantasy points total. So the Cleveland Browns definitely were the better play. Definitely going to be good for the playoff run that you're going to have with them, because they have 2 of the best matchups in the semifinals and finals, which is weeks 15 and 16. Unless your team or your league does 17 or week 17 championship games, which is the worst, and you should not do that. Now, this streaming defense this week is going to be the New York Giants. They are going to be facing the Bengals, who basically have a terrible offense right now, because now they don't have Joe Mixon. They don't have the starting running back. They just lost Joe Burrow for the year. Morale is going to be completely down, and they're already a pretty good defense. So they are going to have a field day against the Bengals. But most organizations, when they put a backup, they could be decent. Sometimes the first game's not great, but they can. It's like kind of like 50-50 shot. It's like they'll either be good or they'll be terrible. But this one is definitely going to be terrible, because unfortunately the Bengals ownership and organization is just not up there. They are not with the elites. And I hate that, because I'm a huge Bengal fan myself, but they are just not. And the Giants are going to be crushing the Bengals this next week. So if you can pick up the Giants, definitely do it. Now, if you need a tight end, Jordan Reed could be a good pickup for you. He was on a bye this last week, so he could be on the waiver wire. Go ahead, add him onto your team. Put him in your tight end slot, especially if you're desperate for a tight end right now. If you guys need a quarterback or you're desperate, Andy Dalton could be the play for you. He did have a decent game this week with the Cowboys, and with that high-powered of offense or weapons really around him, their O-line is not what it used to be. He could still put up some points for you. He does have a decent matchup at home against the Washington football team, so he could be a good fill-in for you if you need it. You guys, that's it for the huddle. If I missed anybody, leave a comment down below. Hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next huddle. Ready?